Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Good to be here. This is a big one to unpack.
It really is. We are tearing into what's arguably the most loaded rugby announcement of the year, the All Blacks' massive 8-game tour of South Africa in 2026.
Yeah, it's the stuff of legend, really.
Yeah.
But as always, the reality is a bit more complex.
Exactly. The source material, it forces us to look past the pure hype and into the ledger books, the strategy. So if you're passionate about dissecting these giant global tours, their impact, the ripple effects, hit that subscribe button right now. Rugby Obsession, we need you following along for all our analysis.
Definitely. And our mission today is very specific. We've gone through all the key reports on this 2026 tour, the rugby's greatest rivalry tour, as they're calling it.
Right. 3 tests against the Bokas, 4 games against URC teams.
Precisely. And we're using the sources to figure out exactly who walks away a winner here and, well, who gets left behind.
And the details, finally public, of what was, let's be honest, rugby's worst-kept secret.
Oh, for sure.
But what's really notable, and the sources pick up on this, is All Blacks coach Scott Robertson openly saying South Africa leaving Super Rugby is what actually made this tour possible.
Yeah, that context is crucial, isn't it?
It frames everything. This isn't just some rotational tour. It's a strategic commercial move born from that split.
Absolutely. And that immediately throws up the big conflict, doesn't it? Tradition versus commerce, history versus revenue.
Which is exactly what we need to unpack. So how much is honoring history? How much is just, well, making money?
Let's start with the winners. The clear winners on the ground in South Africa, because the commerce angle jumps right out.
Okay, yeah, and without a doubt, the biggest local winners have to be the fans up in Gauteng, the valleys, as they say.
The city of gold. It's the commercial hub, and yeah, they are absolutely cleaning up on the schedule.
They get more than half the tour, right?
Pretty much. 2 of the 3 tests are there, plus those 2 big midweek games, Lions and Bulls.
So if you're thinking maximum cash, you go where the people are, where the big stadiums are.
That's the logic.
Yeah.
Dense population, high-capacity venue.
And speaking of venues, Ellis Park, obviously, iconic, has to be there for the history.
Of course.
But the real indicator of the commercial priority, that final test at FNB Stadium in Soweto.
South Africa's biggest stadium. And the sources point out it hasn't hosted a Springbok test since, what, 2013?
Yeah, a long time. So the logic is just pure capacity, get as many people in as possible.
Over 90,000 seats, potentially. Now, the hope, and the sources are a bit cautious here, is that a massive venue like FNB might mean slightly more affordable tickets compared to, say, a smaller ground.
Right, but hang on. Don't the sources also mention that ticket prices for other big games in 2025 have already, skyrocketed?
They do. That's the tension right there.
Yeah.
So, is the bigger venue really about access for the average fan, or just maximizing total revenue?
It's always the question, isn't it?
It is. And the sources sort of acknowledge this. It feels like a calculated trade-off. Unions get a huge payday, yes, but they are delivering this massive, unprecedented tour, a product people clearly want.
Okay, fair point. Which leads us neatly into another group of winners, right? The URC teams and anyone who loves traditional tours.
Exactly. This return of proper touring, it's huge. We haven't seen the All Blacks play provincial or franchise sides in SA since 1996.
Wow, 30 years ago. Back then it was like Boland, Eastern Province, different era.
Totally different. Now it's the big 4 URC franchises. Stormers, Sharks, Bulls, Lions, commercially strong entities.
But it brings back that old school tour feel.
It absolutely does. And what's really interesting, as the sources highlight, is the benefit for the players.
Ah, good point. Because SA teams aren't in Super Rugby anymore.
Right. So for a lot of current South African players in the URC, this is their first chance, maybe their only chance, to ever face a New Zealand team.
That's massive for them. A career highlight, even if they never play for the Springboks. Testing yourself against the All Blacks.
It's an irreplaceable opportunity. Connects the domestic game to that top international level in a way that, even the URC can't quite replicate.
Okay, so player development, fan excitement. But let's swing back to the money. Because that's driving this whole thing.
Undeniably. And they're not really hiding it, are they?
No, the transparency is almost refreshing. It's history, yes, rivalry, yes, but it's also a massive money spinner. SA Rugby and NZ Rugby, the sources confirm, are pretty open about needing this financially.
They kind of have to be, especially SA Rugby. The sources detail the pressure they're under after, missing out on the full financial windfall from the British and Irish Lions tour because of COVID.
Right. Those Lions tours are usually the big payday every 12 years. Missing that leaves a huge hole.
A massive hole. They needed an economic correction, as one source put it, urgently.
So if the Lions Tour is the financial lifeblood, this 8-game All Blacks Tour is like the emergency transfusion.
Well put. We're talking tens of millions in revenue needed just to stabilize things.
Yeah.
That's the reality dictating this huge schedule and why it's these 4 big URC teams involved.
Because they draw the biggest crowds, get the broadcast interest, maximize the return.
Exactly. And it works for NZ Rugby, too. They're also under pressure, looking for high-value fixtures outside their regular Super Rugby deals. This tour solves short-term cash problems for both unions. Big time.
Okay, so for you listening, we've got tradition making a comeback, players getting unique chances, unions getting a much-needed cash boost. But it's driven by financial necessity.
But you need to weigh that up, that balance. Is the excitement, the history restored, enough to justify the clear commercial drivers and, as we'll see, the consequences?
Definitely something to chew on. And keep following this with us, please. Don't forget to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We'll be tracking the impact as this tour gets closer.
Right, because now we need to talk about the flip side, the losers. Because this announcement wasn't good news for everyone, and it really highlights that prioritization of cash.
Let's start geographically. Who misses out? Durban. Big time.
Yeah, the East Coast fans, Sharks supporters, they must feel pretty hard done by. No tests in Durban at all.
Which is huge, considering Durban's rugby history.
Yeah.
Just overlooked.
It's a major disappointment for KZN. Now, the Sharks do get a game against the All Blacks at Kings Park.
Okay, so that's something.
But, and this is the crucial caveat the sources jump on, if this follows the usual pattern, the Sharks will likely be playing without their Springboks.
Ah, because the Boks will be in camp preparing for the tests.
Exactly. So fans in Durban might pay top dollar, but see a weakened Shark side against the All Blacks. It dilutes the experience.
And it's pretty clear evidence, then, that the organizers just went for the money in Joburg, Soweto, and Cape Town, the biggest economic hubs.
Seems that way. And that narrow economic focus, it has ripple effects internationally, particularly for the other Rugby Championship partners.
Yeah, Argentina and Australia. You could call them the partnership losers here.
Augustin Pichot certainly seemed to think so.
Right. The Argentina legend. He called the decision selfish, didn't he? Basically said, look, I get SA and NZ need income, but this feels very short-term, very self-serving.
And Pichot's point goes beyond just, sour grapes over money. It potentially undermines the other partners economically.
And competitively, too, right? Could it mess with their World Cup preps?
The sources suggest it could. Concentrating these high-value games might impact the Wallabies and Las Pumas' planning, even though, ironically, the last Rugby Championship was apparently super competitive.
So it raises that question. Does the immediate financial health of the Big Two trump the long-term stability of the whole four-nation partnership?
At 20 balance, if NZ and SA keep relying on these massive standalone tours to fix their finances, it potentially weakens the collective Sanzaar structure.
Okay, and finally, maybe the biggest oversight, the one the sources really call out as an error.
Yeah, the exclusion of the smaller franchises and unions within South Africa.
This one felt disappointing to read about, because historically, All Blacks tours went wider, didn't they? Griquas, Boland.
They did. Proper national tours. This time. Strictly the Big Four URC teams.
Which means fans in places like Mbombela, Kimberley, Bloemfontein, they miss out completely. Pumas, Griquas, Cheetahs fans. And those unions miss out on a huge financial opportunity, too.
Yeah, it feels like the biggest practical error. Yeah. Now, I get it, logistically.
It's complicated.
The sources mentioned putting together composite teams like those old Royal XV sides. It's a nightmare. Probably scared the bigwigs off, as they put it.
But is that a real reason, or just a convenient excuse to avoid spreading the ticket money thinner?
You could certainly argue that. By sticking to the 4 big cash centers, they simplify everything, maximize the profit, but they lose that chance to spread the benefit, the excitement, down the rugby ladder.
Where that money is often desperately needed by smaller unions.
And those games, connecting with those communities, that's often what really excites the fans beyond just the tests. Cutting them feels purely commercial, potentially harming the broader game in SA.
Okay, so let's wrap this up for you. This deep dive shows the return of proper touring is massive. Great for history, financially necessary, a real boost for local players.
But the sources make it clear, we have to look past the hype. The economic drivers are huge, and they create real consequences, geographical exclusions in SA, strained partnerships internationally.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with, based on all of this?
Yeah, think about the future. If the success of this heavily commercial tour dictates how things are scheduled beyond 2030, how does rugby square that?
Square the massive economic pull of the greatest rivalry with the supposed goal of growing the global game, supporting partners like Argentina and Australia.
That tension isn't going away. It might just define the next decade of international rugby scheduling.
A really powerful thought. We genuinely want to know what you think. Was leaving out Durban a necessary evil? Was ignoring the smaller unions the biggest mistake? Let us know.
Please do.
And one last time, please subscribe to Rugby Obsession to keep this conversation going with us. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.